Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. My name is Filip Černý, and welcome to our today's webinar called Availability, Performance, and Behavior, the complete picture of network intelligence. Before we dive into the webinar, let me just quickly go over some housekeeping rules. If you have trouble hearing us, try connecting to your computer audio and not your phone audio. Throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, there is a navigational panel with questions where you can submit any questions that you have. We will have a dedicated time at the end of the session to answer all the questions that we can. For those that we won't have enough time to answer, we will submit you an response in the email in the follow-up. This webinar is being recorded and you will receive the recording as well in the follow-up email. Okay, this is it. Without any additional delay, let's now move to the topic. So, if we look at today's networks, there is multiple components playing its roles, and today's networks are more complex, sometimes even highly decentralized, and there is multiple applications running on multiple servers. Users are connecting from different locations, so it's really becoming more and more difficult for today's IT environment to figure out when there is a problem, uh, what's actually causing it, and how to fix it. So uh, we know that typically, and the organizations that we talk to usually have some form of IT infrastructure monitoring in place, so you can see your devices, your availability status, what's up or down. But what if a user complains that there are some issues and you look in your monitoring tool and you see green lights everywhere? How will you be able to find the root cause? And more importantly, how quickly will you be able to find the root cause for the issue to maintain the business operation and make sure that basically all the network is running smoothly? So that's one challenge that today's team had to deal with. Now let's implement the AI into the picture. So, you know that AI has come into the world and it's now basically causing on the, let's say, dark side, the attackers have a tool that allows them to quickly create different variants of attacks, which means they are more complex. They can launch them at way faster speed, which means that even today's, I would say, understaffed cybersecurity teams and network operations teams is hard for them to respond. So if we sort of take a like an overall pictures, there is a lot of never-ending challenges that IT teams and network operations teams are facing every day. Dashboard is green, users are complaining, it's just another Tuesday. So combining all of these attributes, root cause analysis, troubleshooting, monitoring for infected devices, as well as making sure that the network is performing on the optimal level, monitoring the bandwidth, and look for any security breaches as well. Whenever there is an issue where we are looking at mean time to repair, how long will it take you to put the business back on normal operation? So there is a number of different things that can happen. As I mentioned, users can complain and you don't see anything. So having a deeper, I would say, traffic analysis and deeper visibility into uh, being able to pinpoint the root cause of the issues. What if there is a bandwidth spike with no obvious cause? Traffic utilization is elevated and or oddly low, for example, and there are no obvious application change, no maintenance window, no explanations you can pinpoint to. So what do you do afterwards? What if a device is behaving oddly or differently? A switch or server is responsive to pings. SNMP polls are returning fine, but something changed in how it's communicating with other devices. or there might be some east-west traffic you don't recognize. So what if a device A is talking to a device B in volume you've never seen before? Uh, all of these challenges require a certain depth of visibility without which the IT teams wouldn't be able to figure out the issue quickly and find the root cause. Uh, so that is the challenge. I also found the some interesting statistics from EMA Network Management Megatrends report from 2026. And if you look at the NetOps by numbers, there are certain percentages like of network observability alerts that are just noise. 67% seems quite high. 42% of network incidents that are addressed in a reactive mode. But if we look at the on the right, you can see that the tool sprawl persists. So it's typical that IT organizations use 4 to 10 different monitoring tools to be able to troubleshoot their networks. And at the same time, the analysts from EMA, when they ask the network admins, network systems engineers, what would help them solve the issue, 61% of responders thought that it's very important to integrate the network observability tools together, therefore reducing the tool sprawl with integration. And as you can see from the priorities, 65% security insight across tools, 59% would want workflow integrations across tool, unified reports and dashboards, data sharing and correlations, and so on. And that brings me to the name of our webinar, or to the key topic, which is the three key pillars I would like to talk to about, and mainly about the third, and that's the availability. So as I mentioned, typical tool that any modern organizations must have to be able to monitor their IT infrastructure, polling, uptime, SNMP, basically, is it up or down? Then, you need to maintain performance. So network performance monitoring, monitoring for bandwidth, latency, and that sort of things, or quality of service. But there is a third pillar that is now being introduced within the WhatsUp Gold solution. It's our product, and that is the behavior, also known as network detection and response capability. So what it does, it provides AI baselines, proactively alerts or any deviations, flags any potential anomaly signals, and does basically a pattern analysis. So if we look at these three pillars closer together, what's the blind spot in today's traditional monitoring? So first, as I mentioned, we've got our availability. So is it up or is it down? Basically, it tells us if the network is reachable, if the server or the application is reachable, but it won't tell us if it's behaving normally. Then the second pillar, we've got performance. So how fast is the network performing? But again, it doesn't tell you if all the traffic is legitimate. So we can see the bandwidth, we can see a packet loss, we can see application response. So these are all really meaningful insights when we want to troubleshoot network operations issues and find the root cause quickly. I know from the customers that we talk to, many of you might actually be aware of this issue, is that there might be a typical blame game. You've got decentralized networks, you've got an application department responsible for their applications, you've got a network department responsible for the network, and both of those teams are using different tools. And when there is a problems, first you need to prove to the other team that it is in fact their responsibility to fix the issue. And this can take days, hours, or even weeks or months if, for example, the application is being maintained by a third party. Uh, so performance pillar will tell us how fast the network is performing, but doesn't tell us if it's all a legitimate traffic. And that brings us to the behavior intelligence. So the third pillar, that is basically completing the picture of the visibility that we need. So we can see if the assets or the applications or the users are behaving as expected by being able to recognize the deviations from the baseline, having establishing traffic patterns. We can see unexpected device communications, anomalous flow volumes, and thanks to basically AI-driven pattern intelligence and behavior analysis, we are able to recognize those deviations and proactively alert. So how does it work? Well, first we need the visibility. So we don't need to deploy any engines. We just collect the network telemetry from your existing infrastructure, typically in the form of NetFlow data, IPFix, SFlow, JFlow, NetStream, any standardized format we can support. And if, let's say, none of these options is available, we can also deploy our sensors, which is basically passive to the network. Once we have the visibility into the data, we learn the baseline. We learn the normal behavior, how the typical day in the network looks like, who's talking to who, how long, using which protocol, and basically set a baseline. And then the WhatsUp Gold's behavior intelligence, because it has this visibility into the real traffic data, can compare the baselines against the live traffic and basically highlight any deviations. So, for example, suddenly a device or a user is suddenly, sending a large amounts of data to, you know, public server, which he's never done before. We might flag it as a potential anomaly. And once basically this is the detection that we can provide to you, you can then decide what to do. So you have easy to explain actionable insights that you can understand, and you can decide what you want to do. For example, you can set some automation when this anomaly is detected, put this host into the quarantine by firewall and other stuff like that. So that's in a nutshell how it works. And we can now look at different types of behavior anomalies that the behavior intelligence can detect. So at first, there can be a different number of scannings or dictionary attacks when someone is trying to break the password, or DDoS attacks. There might be potential traffic anomalies. So, for example, someone is acting as a DHCP server, trying to cause the man-in-the-middle attack. So, basically, trying to get your passwords to then steal your, finances or critical information data. There might be some internal security problems, if there is some malware deployed, or if there is some malicious ransomware trying to encrypt your data. All basically, ransomware is a good example that requires several steps, from scanning the environment to setting the initial foothold in the network, then gradually basically going from device to device and uh, basically finding some critical information before exfiltrating the data and encrypting it. All of these individual steps are potential anomalies that we can detect and proactively alert you on so you can respond quickly. Uh, there might be also the unwanted applications. For example, today some of the organizations probably wouldn't want to have a DeepSeek uh, AI large language model used in their organization. So this is also a way how you can look for that. Or, as I mentioned before, it can be a change in the long-term behavior. So, for example, we've actually had a customer who was using our behavioral intelligence, and we've noticed that a user was sending large amounts of data to the public server, which on the first glance it looked like a network operations anomaly. Why would he be sending this data? But upon further analysis, we found out that the user was actually in the termination notice, having his last 2 weeks in the office and trying to steal the corporate data so he could later on use them in his other job, for example. So this is also how we can see that not all of the anomalies can initially be seen as a security problem, but as an operational one, and then basically gradually turn into a security problem. Now you might stop me and think, okay, hang on a second. I'm a network engineer. I'm a network administrator. My job is to make sure that network runs smoothly. This all seems like a security problem, so this is a SecOps side of things. I don't deal with that. Yes, that might be true, but let's look at it together. So incidents don't start as incidents; they start as anomalies. So if we, for example, mention the ransomware attack. Uh, Usually, when a device is infected with a malware and starts behaving differently than it usually does, uh, network operations can see it. It's visible from the network and it's observable via the behavior analysis. Then the next step is setting the foothold. So basically, there might be an attacker or a misconfiguration establishes a presence on a server, and we can see that the traffic pattern has changed. And again, this can be viewed from the network for NetOps teams. Then basically moving from device to device, which is the lateral movement across the internal segments. So that's the east-west flow deviation that can be flagged by the AI algorithm as well. Again, it's seen by the network operations and the exfiltration. So suddenly there is a large amount of traffic uh, outside of our corporate segment, suddenly talking to a command and control server in Thailand, for example. Again, it's all visible from the network. And then when it's basically grows into an incident at the end, when there is an already encryption or the data has been stolen, that's when security teams might be able to respond, and that's when usually it's too late. So network is the first signal, not the final responder. So because network operations monitors every device, every flow, and every segment, you can see the anomalies before it becomes an incident. So the value of the behavioral intelligence is not asking the network operations to respond to the threats, but it's giving the network teams the visibility to catch the earliest sign of trouble and hand off with evidence, not just instinct. So again, these the key reason why we've introducing this behavioral intelligence within our solutions is to uh, reduce the tool sprawl by integration, as the trends I mentioned at the beginning suggest, but also trying to bring to bring the teams closer together. So within organizations, we see often that the NetOps and security teams are often divided, but we basically can give you one tool that gives you the view from the availability perspective, from the performance and traffic analysis, as well as from the behavioral intelligence, so you can see the complete picture of an incident, of when something goes wrong, and you have the depth of the data to drive into when there is an issue and you need to quickly solve it. So that brings me to the WhatsUp Gold, which is now an basically a unified IT monitoring and security solutions combining availability, performance, and behavior intelligence to help IT teams ensure uptime, optimize performance and analyze traffic, and detect potential anomalies and cyber threats with AI-driven analytics all in one platform. So that is the end of my slides, but I would like to now move to the live demonstration. So Uh, let's see if it will work. I've got the guided scenario here. So let me bring you into the scenario. So an alert has fired, server's CPU utilization has spiked unexpectedly. No one changed anything, something is wrong. Let's find out what is happening. So we can see our dashboard. We can see that we've got a server ending 132, and we can see that there is a potential spike on the server on the chart. So let's drill down. And there might be a number of reasons why this happened, but let's look at our network traffic analysis dashboards, where we can see basically the behavioral data. So we can see, if I go lower, that there is actually an anomaly that we've detected for this server um, from our dashboard. So just by clicking on it, we can be redirected to the anomaly event, and we can see that there has been some port scanning. So vertical TCP SYN scan, attempts with one response, attempts without response is to 11,584 targets. Attempts without response is 11,592 to 7 targets, and we can see to which ports it was. We can see when this happened. We have a nice summary explaining what's happening, and we even have some recommendations features to basically give you a step by step what you should do. Again, clear and easy to understand. So let's go further. We can then pinpoint the server and ask a question like, okay, what other anomalies has this server been responding to? And I can see that there has been some scanning, some DNS anomalies, some diverse communications, DIFCOM, some behavior patterns and threats. So I'm mainly interested in the last two, and I can click and on the first glance see that there has been a cryptocurrency mining subtype of an event and some Axios supply chain event. So if I first drill down into the Axios supply chain, again, I've got the same detail where I can see the timestamps, I can see the server has been the source of this event, and I can see the summary. Basically, the Axios supply chain event tells us the server is communicating with known botnet command and control center. Server has been likely exploited via a vulnerable library, a common attack vector used to establish a persistent back channel to the attacker. So if I go then further and I look at the event evidence, which is basically a tab for each of those view that we have available, I can see the communications flow that are tied to the anomaly, basically the source. So I can see that we've been talking to some IP addresses from France and from United States, probably a known mining pool for mining cryptocurrencies. And we can also open the filter in the monitoring center and look at the records of the traffic. So from that server, basically we're asking like who else has this infected server that we started this investigation from been talking to. And I can see that there is another IP address which is from my network that I might be interested in to drill down. So why would the server be opening connections to another internal host? And if I can see the first flow communications, I can see that the two-way flow records has an SSH session between them that lasted 25 seconds and more, and with a significant amount of data transferred in both direction. So this is a strong indicator that their lateral movement was successful. The attacker likely used the first server to log into the second one and execute further commands by probably installing more malwares, joining the botnets, or setting some additional crypto mining. So we can, for example, see that we can know that brute force attempt would show many short failed connections, but 25 seconds is a sustained session indicating another compromised server in our network. So just by basically going down this path, we've exposed the higher CPU utilizations of a server. Through behavior lens, we've discovered that there has been a crypto mining pool in our network and another server probably compromised. So uh, this is a way, this is the value that the behavior intelligence basically gives us. And with that, we've reached the end of our webinar. But what I would like to offer you before we go to the question is that you can get a free trial of this solution. So feel free to reach out to our sales team or out to our technical engineers through our website or through your sales representative, and we'll be happy to show you a deeper demonstration how this tool works, what would it like to what would it like to be deployed in your environment so you can see for your own data how all of your devices are behaving. If there are possibly some anomalies that you are not aware of that we might be able to discover, and usually it's very easy to to install and deploy, so you can see the first data within 30 minutes or up to 1 hour, I would say, and basically see the traffic for your site for yourself. So if you have an interest in the trial or for a deeper demonstration, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And with that, I've reached my time, and now it is time for your question. Okay, so again, as a reminder, there is a question mark in the navigational panel where you can submit your questions. So we've got one. Okay. I'll join the meeting late. Will it be possible to get the full recording once it's available? Yes. The webinar is being recorded and you will receive the recording in the follow-up email as well. There is another question. I am a WhatsUp Gold customers with Enterprise Plus license. How do I enable behavior analysis? So this is actually also displayed on our website. Uh, uh, if you are on the Enterprise Plus tier, you can have the Network Traffic Analysis Plus feature deployed, which is a virtual collector, and enabling the behavior analysis is just installing a software module on top of that. So from a deployment perspective, it's a very straightforward installation software, no additional installation of appliances, and basically to be eligible, you just need to pay the I believe this something around $4,000, but our sales team will be able to tell you the exact price. If you reach out to them, they can discuss this with you in more detail. But basically, you will just basically enable the NDR Lite, Network Detection Response Lite license on the NTA Plus collector, and you will be basically able to see the behavior analytics as we've shown in the demonstration. For those customers who are also interested but are not on the Enterprise Plus tier, you can basically again reach out to our sales team, receive a quote, and we'll basically based on your environment, we will give based on the number of devices, we'll give you a package in the combination of the collector and sensors and the NDR engine module. All of it basically together, it takes the copy of a copy of your traffic, gives you the visibility into who talks to how long, and runs the behavior analytics on top of that. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Let's see if there are any more coming. Oh yeah, I was in the wrong view, so we've got actually a couple of them. So let me just get into it. Which version of Flowmon Collector and ADS are aligned with the Enterprise Plus? So this will be probably on a discussion with for our pre-sales engineer, but basically we to keep the licensing based on the number of devices, we've packaged the solution together, so it basically we can be sure that it can handle the general traffic that corresponds with a network of, for example, thousands of devices or a network of 5,000 devices. So we've left some we basically assigned the high enough version of the anomaly detection to make sure that traffic can be handled and all of those flows can be processed. But again, it's more on the pre-sales discussions based on the specific customer's environment. Does it require additional software installation? Yes, as I mentioned, it's basically a software module that we install on the collector, and
for our Enterprise Plus customers already are eligible to that collector within the form of NTA Plus feature, and the customers that are not on the Enterprise Plus tier, they basically can still get a quote, purchase it under the standalone WhatsUp Gold network performance and monitoring solution, and install the NDR, the software on top of that collector. Uh, could you please clarify how to avail the 30-minute demo trial that was mentioned earlier? Also, is this offer available to ICT resource in Philippines, or is it intended to end customers only? Uh, so the demo trial, that is something that we can provide through channel or directly, but generally we prefer through channel anywhere in the regions. So we just generate a free trial license for usually for 30 days, and then we let the system run in customer's environment. Once we have enough data, enough visibility, we present the results to the customer. It's basically like a proof of concept. The 30-minute mark was intended to showcase that after installation, within 30 minutes, you can see the real data. Once we do some basic configuration, we've got the pre-configurations wizard in the solution, so it's pretty straightforward once the solution is installed to do the initial setting to start seeing the real data. Okay. Are there any hardware requirements to this new module? Um, So typically the solution runs on, if it runs on our hardware collector, that's usually reviewed by us, so it runs without any specific problems. If you are running on a virtualized platform, we do have a specification document that basically tells you how much memory and CPUs and capacity we require. So if you again reach out to our sales team or to our technical teams, they will be happy to give you that information. Unfortunately, I don't have it from the top of my head here. Um, is it available directly from the WhatsUp Gold UI? Yes, so on the back end, it's a Flowmon technology, as was mentioned in the questions, but there is an integration in the solution, so you can click through the WhatsUp Gold, see the key dashboards within the WhatsUp Gold GUI, and in the analysis go deeper. So it's joint graphical interface, as you've seen on the demo. You basically have yeah, you have one let's say centralized visibility. Um, and I believe I've covered all of the questions. There aren't any more coming, I think. Let me just quickly verify. Uh, There is one more. If it will be used from a security perspective, is it mandatory for the NetFlow data to be generated by a probe, or do the SFlow NetFlow records generated by switches routers provide sufficient visibility and content for security use cases? Yes, and it depends. So generally, the if we rely on the probe capabilities on the sensors, meaning we generate our own data and send it to the collector, we basically support 100% of the functionality of the security use cases because we've got enough visibility. If we rely on the network telemetry from the infrastructure, or whatever it source from whatever source, it depends in which format we receive, because I know, for example, that SFlow might have limited capabilities of some of the fields. NetFlow or IPFix doesn't have any issues. So it depends on a specific format, but generally 60% of all detection capabilities works fine with all the network telemetry fields available. Then it depends on the detection methods. So some detection methods might require a visibility into some fields that the network telemetry field, like for example SFlow, might not support. So then we need to dig deeper and figure out like how we can get that visibility into those fields. Either we might need to then lean towards the probe, or we find out that, for example, for that specific use case, that detection method is not that critical. We don't need to use it. So generally, the rule of thumb is that, if you deploy our probes, you have 100% visibility, and that's also what we want, what we recommend our customers to use, because this is what we've tested in for our solution. We can rely on the network telemetry from the infrastructure. We just need to basically validate the format and the data quality that we receive. And now I believe I've answered all of the questions. Uh, Again, if you have any other questions and we didn't have enough time, feel free to reach out to us directly through our website, through our contact form. And otherwise, I'll be looking forward to see you on the next webinar. Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye.